Once again, welcome to the children. I welcome you all in this class. And in part 7, we saw that Dr. Sadao, he told the American soldier that he'll help him to escape. He'll provide him his boat, and then he'll provide him some food and clothes, and then he should go to the nearby island, and from there he could take the Korean ship and go elsewhere, wherever he wanted. So now in part 8, we'll see what all Sadao did and what all lies he told that we are going to see in this. Sadao did not see him again until evening. So when he returned from the American's room, he did not meet him till evening, and as soon as it became dark, the stout boat down to the shore, and in it he put food, bottled water that he had brought secretly during the day, as well as 2 quills he had brought in a pawn shop. And during the daytime he bought bottles for him, quilt for him, and he kept that in the boat. The boat he tied to a post in water, for the tide was high. And that time the tide was high tide was prevailing, and he tied the boat, and there was no moon, and he worked without the flashlight, and no moonlight was there, and in the dark he was working. When he came to the house, he entered, and when he came to the house, he entered the room, and he started doing his work. And Yumi this Hannah did not know anything what her husband was doing. Yumi was here today, and while working she said to her husband that Yumi came today, and she said that she served his supper. And while she was serving him food, she spoke about Yumi, and then she said, though she is so modern, still she did not eat with him. And as here in some of the houses, mostly in the Indian houses and the Hindu families, you must have seen that the women, they don't sit with the men for their food. First they let them have the food, and then afterwards they sit and have the food. So in the same way, the woman, Dr. Sadao's wife, she gave him food, she did not eat with him. And she said about Yumi that Yumi cried over the baby. She went on with her sigh, she misses him so. And she came over here, she was crying, and she said that she missed the baby very much. The servant will come back as soon as the foreigner is gone, Sadao said. So the doctor said, just as Yumi came to pay the visit to see the children, so as soon as the foreigner will go away, the American will go away, the servants will come back and they will work. He went into the guest room that night before he went to bed himself, and checked carefully the American's temperature. And before going to bed, he went to the American soldier's room. He checked his temperature. He looked at his wound, his heart, his pulse. He checked everything. The pulse was irregular, but that was perhaps because of excitement. And the pulse was irregular, and doctor thought that it is because he was very much excited that he'll be escaping from that place. The young man's pale lips were pressed together and his eyes burned. And the young man, he was pressing his lips together because he did not want to say anything, he did not want to show the emotions and all. And his eyes, they seemed to be burning, they were red. Only the scar on his neck was red, and the scar that he had on the neck, that was also red in color. I realize you are serving my life again, he told Sadao. So he said to the doctor, I think you are saving my life again. Not at all. Doctor said, no, I am not saving your life. It is only inconvenient to have you here any longer. and we are feeling inconvenient that you are staying here anytime, we'll be caught and then we'll be put in jail. He had hesitated a great deal about giving the man a flashlight, and then he gave him the flashlight, and then he said, if your food runs out before you catch a boat, signal me 2 flashes at the same instant the sun drops over the horizon. So he said to him that while you are there on the island, and if your food finishes, then at the sunset, as soon as the sun sets, then you show me 2 torchlight, 2 flashes, one after the other. It will be a signal for me, and then I'll try and I will give you something to eat, and you will find. And if I won't be able to provide you something, then you can catch fresh fish over there and then you can eat them raw. Because if you burn the fire will be seen by the Japanese and they will catch you and they will kill you. So the young man said, all right. Then he dressed up in Japanese clothes which Sadao had given him. So Sadao provided him the Japanese clothes, he wore that, and he wrapped a black cloth about his blonde head, and on his head, to cover his hair, he covered it with black cloth. And Sadao said, now. The young man without a word shook Sadao's hand warmly. Then both of them, they shook their hands, each other's hands, and then he walked down to the floor through the garden, and once or twice Sadao saw his light flash to find his way, but that was not be suspected. He waited until from the shore there was one more flash, and after sitting in the boat, again he gave a flash, and then doctor said that now he is okay, and then doctor came back, he closed the partition, and then he said, slept soundly. So next morning what happened? The general asked faintly, you say the man escaped. So he told general that the man went away from here, he escaped, he ran away. He had been operated upon a week before, an emergency operation to which Sadao had been called in the night. For 12 hours Sadao had not been sure the general would live. The gallbladder was much involved. Then the old man had begun to breathe deeply again and to demand food. Sadao had not been able to ask about the assassins. So far as he knew, they had never come. And Sadao had gone to operate the general because he was not well and he had some problem. The gallbladder was also not working properly, and the general was not in good health. So that time general asked him that you say that the American escaped from your house, and the doctor, he did not have guts to ask him whether you sent the assassins or not, because he knew that the assassins had not come. The servant had returned, and Yumi had cleaned the guest room thoroughly and had burned sulfur in it to get the white man's smell out of it. And when the American went away from there, the servants came back and they started working. And Yumi also, she came to work, and then she cleaned the room of where the American was there, and she burned sulfur over there so that the smell of that man should go away from it. Nobody said anything. They kept quiet, they did their work. Only the gardener was cross because he had got behind with his chrysanthemums. And the gardener, he was feeling very bad because the chrysanthemums flowers, they were destroyed. But after a week, Sadao felt the general was well enough to be spoken to about the prisoner. And when general was all right, then Sadao said now he must speak to him about the prisoner. Yes, Excellency, he escaped. So after the general got well, he said, Your Excellency, the prisoner escaped from here. Sadao now said, he coughed, signifying that he had not said all he might have said, but unwillingly to disturb the general further. But the old man opened his eyes suddenly, and he purposely did not want to say, and he was unwilling to disturb the general. He did not want to disturb the general in his health, because he was resting. That prisoner, he said with some energy, did I not promise that I would kill him for you? So the general said, that prisoner escaped from there, and I had told you that I will help you by killing the general. So Sadao said, Your Excellency. Old man said, okay, whatever happened had happened. So if he had gone, let him go. I forgot my promise to you. And he said, I had promised you that I will send you the assassins, but I forgot to send them. Your Excellency, it was certain very careless of me, and General, he was feeling very bad because whatever he had promised to the doctor, he did not do it, he could not do it, and he was now making excuses, he was asking for the sorry and all. But Sadao, again he tried to say, Your Excellency, he wanted to say something or the other, but the general did not let him speak. And then general said, You are a good man. You will be rewarded. That you are a good man and a reward should be given to you. But Sadao, searching the spot of black in the twilighted sea that night, had his reward. But the reward that Sadao wanted in his life, that he got by helping the American to escape. There was no prick of light in the dusk. No one was on the island. His prisoner was gone, safe, doubtless, for he had warned him to wait only for a Korean fishing boat. And the doctor was feeling very happy because in the evening no flashlight was there from there, and he had warned the prisoner that he should take the Korean fishing boat and go away from there. He stood for a moment on the veranda, gazing out to the sea from whence the young man had come that other night. And again in the veranda he was standing, and he was just thinking of the place from where that old man, that American, had come. He was washed up of the sea, and he came over there. And into his mind, all thought without reason, there came another white faces he had known. And while he was standing over there, again the white faces started dancing in front of his eyes about the professor where he had met Hannah, a dull man, and his wife, who were silly. She was a very talkative woman. In spite of her wish to be kind, she wished to be kind, but still she spoke too much. He remembered his old teacher of anatomy, who had been so insistent on mercy with a knife, and then he remembered the face of his fat, slatternly landlady. He had great difficulty in finding the place to live in America because he was a Japanese. So being a Japanese, he was not able to find the place to live in. But this woman, that fat woman, she helped him to stay in her house. The Americans were full of prejudice, and it had been bitter to live in it, knowing himself their superior. And then the Americans, they thought themselves to be superior than the other people, so it was very difficult for him to stay over there. He had despised the ignorant and dirty old woman who had at last consented to house him in her miserable home. And that woman, she did not want him to live over there, but at last she agreed. She gave him the place to live in. The house was not so good, but still he stayed over there. He had once tried to be grateful to her because she had in her last years nursed him through influenza, and then he wanted to thank her because he was suffering from influenza and she nursed him. But it was difficult, for she was no less repulsive to him in her kindness, and she never accepted anything. Now he remembered the youthful, haggard face of his prisoner, white and repulsive. And then, in the end, again he remembered the face of the prisoner whom he operated and served. Strange, he thought, I wonder why I could not kill him. And he was wondering that why he could not kill. So children, did you understand the feelings of the doctor? He had great feelings with the American people because he lived over there and he studied surgery and medicine over there. He became a scientist there, and then that's why he did not have that mind and soul in him to kill the American soldier. So he saved his life and he helped him to escape. He did not have guts to kill him. So I hope all these 8 parts have made this lesson quite simple and easy for you to understand. So that's all for today, children. Goodbye.